So on the last episode where we were working on this race car here, the new build, we were inside this motor compartment, capping off that little section over there. As you can see now, primed, painted, everything's all pretty. So now let's move on to the next step, which is going to be the door plate. All right, so most rule books at this point require a door plate for the side of your car, driver's side door, because of puncture. The door panel itself isn't very thick, and if something comes bouncing down that racetrack, exhaust, an axle or something, come right through that door and it could stick you right in the seat. So most tracks require a door plate. There's a couple different ways you could do this. You could just take a full steel plate, weld it over the door. I've seen guys do that. Weld it right on here. Call it a day. You can do that. It works. I mean, technically that's within the rule book. It'll do what it's supposed to do. That's not how I do it. I usually cut plates, weld them in to the holes here. Obviously this isn't the right plate for this hole. It probably goes here or something, but I fill in the holes in between and I go down and fill each spot in, and then I'll usually put an angled plate down here on the bottom to fill this small hole in the bottom here in. I do that for two reasons. One, I think it looks a lot better, and two, you use less material. So let's do it. So let's talk about window nets. Obviously it can be done multiple different ways. Now, you buy a window net, a lot of times you can buy a window net kit that comes with the rod and mounting plates and whatnot. There's a few different options. A lot of options have what looks like an old seatbelt, or it is an old seatbelt, through the top rod that clips in to like an old seatbelt buckle, which is how we did it for a long time back in the day. Back when seatbelts used to be made out of, the housing used to be made out of metal and you could actually weld to them. Now most seatbelts are plastic. So, some guys can still get their hands on stuff to make them work with the window nets. Some of the styles have a buckle just like your racing seatbelt has, the latch and lock style, latch and hook style. And then they have these spring-loaded rods here. And these are pretty slick. I like these. I've used them a few times. But one thing my father pointed out one time when I was mounting one of these was that you don't want this spring-loaded section at the back. When it is at the back, I'll admit, it's easier for you to put the window net up from inside the car when the spring-loaded thing's at the back. It is. However, if this spring-loaded thing is at the back and you were to take a hit in the window net with a piece of debris or something at the track, it could actually spring, the hit itself could spring load the shaft and knock your window net into the car. You don't want that to happen. So, you want the spring-loaded part at the front. Normally this tab would be inside where you can reach it. So, it'll be a little bit harder if you're going to put your window net up by yourself. Say you're at the track by yourself or something, which, I mean, some of us are rocking it by ourselves sometimes, but usually a lot of guys have help with them. So, if it's at the front, like this, it's a little harder to put up from inside the car. However, let's say you need to get out in a hurry. That's what it looks like when it's up. But if you need to get out in a hurry, pretty slick, huh? Plus, it ain't coming out on contact. You're good, okay? So we got this mounted up on here now. those little triangle nets you see some guys use, those are for sprint cars, okay? Not a full-size car. Use a full-size net for a full-size car. Now, that could just be my opinion, I guess, but it's a full-size car, full-size net, big parts flying through the air. It's there to protect you. That's what it's there for. So, spring-loaded part to the front. I like these kits. Okay, this is slick. This kit didn't come with a bar for the bottom or a shaft. It came with a piece of flat stock, which I didn't like. So I actually have a piece of threaded rod in here now, which I've done that for a long time. Plus, this way you can put a couple nylocks on the end of it, and then it's removable. Like I'm going to remove it here right now so that I can put some paint on this. But yeah, I mean, if this is forward, normally this tab, like I said, would be in where the driver is, okay? You can just reach up and slap it like I did on the outside. So you gotta get out and hurry, right? That's how it should be mounted. All right, so door plates are in. You can see I got a little bit of paint on here. It needs another coat, and then it'll look perfect. Let's talk about rub rails. Some tracks, some sanctioning bodies don't want rub rails on the outside of the car. Personally, I prefer a rub rail on the outside of the car. It protects your paint, it protects your graphics, it keeps the panels from getting smashed in for the most part, but some places think that a rub rail causes tire punctures. I completely disagree. If the rub rail is built correctly, it shouldn't be puncturing tires. If it's got smoothed off capped ends on it, shouldn't be an issue, especially when, you know, a third to half of their field probably has body panels sticking out all bent and crooked up like razor blades. That's going to do more damage than your rub rail. But anyways, those are their rules. You have to follow their rules. So when I started traveling a little bit more and hitting more tracks, I moved my rub rails to inside the body panel. And normally I'll trim out the inside of this front fender, and I'll knock a hole back here in this, and I'll slide it right inside. I'll slide this piece of pipe inside here and back inside the panel, up right tight to this panel and inside the door panel here. Now, where you put it obviously matters. I can tell you it's lower than you think. The first couple times I did it, I put them too high, and panels get all smashed in on the bottom. Your first thought is to put it where the body sticks out the furthest, and that's too high. Tires come right in under it, bumpers come right in under it, and smashed up. So next thought is, you know, you want it around the top of your tire, you know, right about where the top of the tire is going to be, because someone's going to come in and hit you. Also, not low enough. You want it down low, down in this area, because that's about where the bumper height is, front and rear, is right about here. So you want it quite a bit lower than you think. That'll still catch your tires, and if somebody comes in real hot at a serious angle into the corner, or if you get spun or something, it's down low. That being said, I've got an old outside rub rail here from my car when it used to have rub rails on the outside of it. This is a thin wall 1x1 square stock, and this is what I use to mount the rub rail for the post coming out, which I'll weld on here coming out to the rub rail, and then I'll weld it on this back one coming out to the rub rail. There's a reason for that. I want it to be sacrificial. I don't want roll bar tubing like this going into this main cage section, because I don't want to take a hit. A cylinder shape is extremely strong from this angle, like straight on. I mean, it'll take a lot. And if you've got that welded to this bar coming straight out to another thick piece of roll bar tubing and you take a hit, you're sending all of that energy directly into your main cage, and you don't want to do that. Which is why I use the thin wall square stock welded out to a piece of roll bar tubing in here, because I don't want to, you know, collapse the roll bar tubing. But if you were to take a significant hit, it will collapse, crush, bend that 1x1 and keep it from damaging your main structure. You don't want to damage the main structure. So let's cut some stuff up and get one of these in here quick. I'll just time lapse it so you don't got to watch me cut and weld, but you'll get the basic idea. We'll come back and look at it when it's done. All right, that's it. Simple. I mean, you could make them bolt on if you wanted to. You could do you know, maybe a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller piece here, and then put like a 1/4-20 bolt through it. And then on impact, most likely it'll shear the 1/4-20 bolt. I've done that in the past. Then they're removable. You can put a new one on. Or in this case, this thin wall square stocks, if it takes a hard hit, it's just gonna bend, and then you can cut it off and weld a new one on. You know, take your door off and just weld a new one on, depending on how bad it is. But it's pretty simple, easy setup, you know. It's inside the thing here. You can see a little dent from the pliers when I folded it over, because it wasn't, you know, I fold this edge over a little bit. I don't want to cut it quite flush. But there's when I put the door skin on, there'll be an aluminum panel here with rivets in it, so you're never going to see that. But that's it. Weld it on there. Quick, clean, and effective. Just the way I like it. So that's in there. We'll get some white paint on this after it dries. You can see it's still a little wet here. And then that's good to go for this side. Another coat of paint here, some paint on that, and we gotta clean this sill plate here up. Put some paint on that, and then we can put the door skin on this side, because I already did the window net mounts and stuff. So getting there, moving along. All right, well, I'm out of steel. I don't have any more roll bar pipe left over right now. That was the only piece I had left. So I'm waiting for roll bar steel to come in. So we can't do the roll bar or the rubber rail on the other side. So that's going to be it for this episode. Keep it creative, happy building, you know, all that good stuff. My gauges and tack and whatnot did come in. So if my buddy has some steel, some 18 gauge, I can make the dash in the next episode. So hopefully the next episode we can build the dash and finish up that rubber rail on the other side. Maybe move on to mounting this seat. I guess we'll find out. Catch you next time.